Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be recommending 10 young adult fantasy standalone books that are some of my favorites. A lot of people don't want to invest in a whole series and are just looking for a quick standalone fantasy, so I have 10 awesome book recs for you guys. I'm not going to be going through these books in any particular order. However, I am going to save the best for last. The 10th book I'm going to be talking about is one of my favorite YA standalone fantasies of all time. If I have reviews for any of these books, I will be sure to link them up in the cards as well as in the description box below if you want to hear my further thoughts on any of these books. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the book recommendations. The first recommendation is House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland, which is a dark YA fantasy. We follow three sisters, Gray, Vivi, and Iris, and one day these three girls went missing. They were gone for an entire month, and one day they just reappeared and can't remember anything that happened to them. And these girls return with these eerie, otherworldly type presence and abilities. As the girls grow up, they start to realize that their otherworldly abilities are linked to their disappearance, which happen to be in this dark, mysterious, magical world. The story actually centers on the youngest sister named Iris, who seems to be the one that has it most put together. One day, Iris's older sister Gray goes missing, and she leaves behind all of these bizarre clues. Vivi and Iris are left behind to put the clues together, and in doing so, they both discover a deep, dark past that has to do with the time that they went missing, the otherworldly forces that now follow them and threaten to tear them and their family apart. I like that this book is fantasy horror. There are definitely some weird horror elements to this that were a bit unsettling, and I also really liked the familiar bond and the sisterly bond between these three girls, and it really does show a lot of growth and loss of innocence regarding Iris as a character. Next, we have Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, which is another dark YA fantasy. In this book, we're following a character named Artemisia who has the unique ability to see and interact with spirits. She lives in a world where the dead can rise and become revenants, spirits that corrupt and ruin human beings. As a novice, Artemisia's job is to protect her city from these spirits using these ancient relics. One day her convent is attacked and overrun by these revenants, and Artemisia is forced to flee, and she brings along with her a spirit named Vespertine. Vespertine is housed inside an ancient relic, and she agrees to help Artemisia figure out what's going on with all of these revenants that were attacking, but she also has a dark agenda of her own. As Artemisia and Vespertine are thrust into a dark world full of betrayals and political machinations, they must learn to work together and trust each other in order to actually combat the encroaching darkness. Vespertine was a lot of fun. It's definitely a unique story regarding spirits and a little bit of necromancy, I guess you could say. And I found the relationship between Artemisia and Vespertine very unique and a little bit codependent at times. If you are enjoying this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well as giving this video a like to throw my channel a little love and support. Also, I am the author of the sci-fi mystery book Aftermath, which currently has a 4.5 rating on Goodreads. I would love for y'all to take a second and check it out and see if it is a book that speaks to you and that you might be interested in reading. I would really appreciate it. Next, we have The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. This is an urban fantasy where vampires exist and they live in these walled-off quarantine cities known as cold towns. These cities are notorious for their lawlessness and danger, and once someone is bit by a vampire, they either are transformed or have to go to a cold town to await transformation. While cold towns were initially set up to contain the vampire outbreak, people for some reason have a fascination with vampires, and regular people voluntarily go into these cold towns to experience fame, wealth, parties, chaos, debauchery, you name it. The story follows Tana, who one day wakes up one morning to find that her entire friend group, she'd been in a party, has been slaughtered by vampires, and she herself has also been bitten. With the help of a vampire who seems more human than monster named Gabriel, Tana decides to face the terrifying choice of whether or not to go to a cold town to await transformation or to try and cure herself from this vampiric curse. She decides to enter Cold Town, and what she finds there is a web of dark, deep secrets, alliances, betrayals, and she begins to learn more about herself and exactly this whole deal with vampirism. I definitely found this book to be a bit unsettling. These cold towns were definitely not a place that you would want to go. These vampires were brutal and violent, and a really good book to read around Halloween. Next, we have Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. Small Favors is another YA dark fantasy that is set in the isolated village of Amity Falls. A deep, dark, enchanted forest surrounds Amity Falls. The people of Amity Falls have a deep respect for the forest and the creatures and the magic that reside there. We are following a girl named Ellery who dreams of leaving Amity Falls, but her dream is halted as strange things start happening and creatures from the forest that have not bothered this village for a long time start to emerge and wreak havoc on the peaceful life that she knows. As Ellery's life becomes more and more entangled with the creatures of this forest, the magic of this forest, Ellery has to take a step back and confront secrets about her family, her village, and the magic that everyone fears so much. Erin A. Craig is definitely one of my favorite YA fantasy horror authors. I've read 3 of her books, and she definitely knows how to write creepiness in a way that is subtle. And what I also love about this book is that a lot of the horror elements come from humans themselves. We see how this magic is affecting these people and how this small village, who has for a long time supported one another, been there for one another, start to turn on each other. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Next, we have Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and this is a villain origin story for the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. We follow a main character named Catherine who lives in the Kingdom of Hearts, and she just wants to open her own bakery. She absolutely loves baking. That is her goal in life. However, Catherine's life takes a dramatic turn when she meets a boy named Jester, and he captures her heart. Despite her growing feelings for Jester, Catherine is being pushed towards an arranged marriage with the King of Hearts, a man that she absolutely does not love. As Catherine struggles to balance her growing feelings for Jester, trying to satisfy her family expectations, as well as be true to herself, the Kingdom of Hearts starts to become more and more unstable. As the story unfolds, Catherine's life kind of spirals out of control, and all of these events lead up to this dark transformation from Catherine into the ruthless and cold Queen of Hearts. This is definitely one of my favorite YA fantasy books of all time. I thought that Stephanie Meyer did an absolutely impeccable job at crafting a villain story, because at the end of this, I totally felt for Catherine and even could justify a little bit why she did what she did. It was very well done. Next, we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab, and in this book, we're following a girl named Olivia Pryor. She is an orphan, and she grew up in a boarding house for girls, pretty much abandoned by her family. Her mother is deceased, her father is nowhere to be found, and the only thing that she has of her family is a journal filled with illustrations and cryptic messages from her mother, and the one word that keeps repeating over and over is gallant. One day, Olivia unexpectedly receives an invitation to Gallant, and she learns that it is a big estate that her family owns. Olivia is about to age out of the boarding school anyway and become an adult, so she takes her uncle up on this offer and ends up traveling to Gallant. And when she gets there, she learns that this mansion is way more than she thought, and it is actually a gateway between our world and this deep, dark, evil other world. As Olivia begins to navigate this secret mansion, she uncovers some secrets about her family and their connection to this dark, shadowy world, and Olivia must face the consequences of both her family's actions and her actions in both realms. I really enjoyed Gallant. It's definitely a quick read. If you're someone that enjoys portal fantasy type stories, this would definitely fit that trope. And then this book also has really, really pretty illustrations in it. And there's some parts of the story that read like the mother's journal, like we're actually reading the journal that the mother wrote and left Olivia. So it's just like a unique experience. Next, we have Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Swartz. This is a dark gothic historical fiction with a small magical element to it. There is a companion novel to this book, but the main conflict that was introduced in this story is resolved, and it can 100% be read as a standalone. This book takes place in 19th century Edinburgh, Scotland, and we are following a girl named Hazel who comes from a well-to-do family, and her only ambition in life is to become a surgeon, which is not something that's available for women during this time period in Scotland. To pursue her dreams, Hazel employs the strange talents of a gravedigger named Jack, who procures bodies for her to practice her surgical skills on. Additionally, she ends up impersonating her brother, who has been deceased for a couple of years, in order to enter medical school, but she is eventually found out and banished. Meanwhile, a plague has been breaking out in different parts of Scotland, and Hazel decides to investigate whether or not she can create a cure. She also ends up becoming involved with a man named Dr. Beecham, who was one of the most famous surgeons during this time period. And as she navigates this world of anatomy and surgery and doing things illegally and dealing with Jack the gravedigger, she starts to uncover secrets about Dr. Beecham that may or may not be related to what's going on with this plague in Edinburgh, as well as some other strange events that are happening. Like I said, this book is definitely more gothic historical fiction, but it does have a small fantastical element related to immortality, so that's why I wanted to include it on this list. Next, we have Daughter of the Burning City by Amanda Foody. This world is set in a dark, magical traveling circus known as the Great Dalliance. We are following a character named Serena, and she is a blind illusionist. The illusions that she creates are very human-like. They appear to be living and breathing apparitions, and she creates them from her magic. Serena is also the adopted type daughter of the ringmaster. One day, one of Serena's most loved illusions is murdered, and this sets the circus into chaos. No one seems to want to help Serena because they don't think that her illusions were people, so Serena has to embark on a mission on her own to figure out what happened, to uncover the truth, and determine why someone would want to kill her illusions. Along the way, she discovers deep, dark secrets about herself, her family, the circus, and the actual motive for murdering her illusions. This book was a lot of fun, and I do recommend it if you're someone that really enjoys any type of setting around magical circuses. Next, we have The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This is a dark, very atmospheric novel that is set on a small town located on the coast of Oregon in the United States. It follows a character named Penny. She lives in this small town, and this small town actually has a very chilling and dark history. The town is haunted by the curse of the three sisters. Over a century ago, three sisters were tragically accused of witchcraft and were murdered. Legend has it that during the summer, these spirits come alive and they possess the body of three girls who lure boys to them, to the water, and then drown them. Penny understands the grief of this curse as it has claimed the lives of young boys in their town for years. Things take an even darker turn when a mysterious boy named Bo enters the town. He becomes entangled in the curse surrounding the three sisters, and Penny becomes entangled as well. This book definitely is atmospheric and creepy, and there are backstories into the events of what happened to these three girls before they were killed. And we also have spirits possessing human bodies. So it's definitely a dark fantasy story and another story that would be great to read around the Halloween time. And lastly, we have my favorite YA standalone fantasy book, which is Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. This story takes place in a Viking-inspired world where two clans are constantly battling. We follow Aelin, who is part of the Aska clan, and she has been fighting the enemy for years and unfortunately witnessed the death of her brother by this clan's hands. However, everything changes when years later, Aelin learns that her brother is actually still alive and fighting for the enemy clan. After being captured by the Riki, the enemy clan, Aelin is forced into their territory and forced to confront what actually happened with her brother, and she learns that things are absolutely not as simple as she has been led to believe. She starts to question her loyalty to her own clan, as well as the whole motivation between why these two clans are fighting in the first place. The fantastical elements of this book are very, very light. Obviously, this is a made up world, made up clans, etc. And there is a little bit of magic regarding, I guess, like prophecy or looking into the future. Think tarot, but not with tarot cards, that kind of magic. It's, like I said, very, very light, but this book is definitely one that will pull at your heartstrings, make you feel emotional as you go with Aylin on her story and her journey. Okay, you guys, those are 10 standalone YA fantasy books that I really enjoyed and do recommend. Also, let me know if you guys have read any other standalone fantasy books that you think I would enjoy or other readers would enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in another video soon. Goodbye!